Hello friends and welcome back for another episode of Mini Impressions. My name is Nick, and today we're going to be checking out something called Voidscape Zero by developer Paul. This is a first-person atmospheric exploration game that's going to have us exploring a very strange and sort of surreal environment. Hey, that's something that we do all the time on Indie Impressions, so you should feel right at home. Of course, this does have a little bit of its own caveat to the premise, and I'm going to show you what that is very shortly, or actually, you could probably just read the text right in front of your eyes and figure that out. But why don't we just jump right into things and I'll sort of explain as we go. Unfortunately, this is woefully short, but what's here is very cool and definitely a bit on the creepy side. And in fact, this game kind of creeped me out a lot more than a lot of games that are designed to creep me out. And maybe that's just by virtue of us not having enough context since this started out as sort of a school project and branched out from there. But anyway, so we've got move on WASD and space. Standard stuff, nothing surprising there. Shift on run for shift, you know, you get it. We've got a button here that's left click to drown when on water. That's kind of an important one, and I'll explain that in a second. And trigger gem is on E, which also sounds very mysterious. I like when the premise is sort of set up by a strange description in the key bindings or something like that. I like that we have to kind of figure that out as we go. And then if we're lost, we can hit R, and R just actually resets the game back to the spawn point. Not super helpful generally if we're lost, and I don't really know how we're going to get super lost anyway. Or maybe if we just trigger things out of sequence or get stuck or something, that could be useful. Anyway, why don't I turn around and I can show you what we're facing here. We've got a bit of a coliseum of some sort that reminds me a lot of a de-resed version of an area in Dark Souls 2, and maybe that's a strange thing for my mind to jump to, but that's what it does. So I'm looking at, I see some sort of, I don't know if it's like a mushroom tower or like a lighthouse that's collapsed on top. I'm not entirely sure about really much of anything that's going on here. And a strange looking floor that if we hadn't read that text, we probably wouldn't think much of. So anyway, I'll fall down here. And I'm just going to say this is probably frosted glass, right? Moving frosted glass that sort of undulates and pulses. And has a very cool reflective quality to it. All of those things that I just said are probably the most likely outcome, right? Anyway, let's have a quick look around here before we get too invested. I want to make note, of course, of a very cool lighting system that I really like quite a bit. As you can see, it's got a couple of levels as it passes over all of these objects, and things have sort of a flat shaded or maybe even cell shaded quality to them, which goes well with a sparse bit of texture work, and I really like the art style of this game in general. And I think that goes a long way into making things feel so atmospheric. Also, that hazy quality as you look into what, again, we're calling frosted glass beneath my feet, definitely makes things very strange and confusing and kind of interesting at the same time. Maybe mysterious is a better word for that. It's also a little bit of like a rainbowish looking aura happening down in the ground too. Almost an iridescent quality, if you will. So let's just walk around the Colosseum for a bit. You can see off in the distance, the draw distance is pretty good, and things sort of fade out into a very scary-looking silhouette, getting some vibes of, like, creepy Halloween town off in the distance or something. And what is this? I see something glimmering beneath the glass. Why don't I try to use my left click here and see what that does? Oh my gosh! So surprising! I actually plunged beneath the water, and that was water, actually. And I didn't actually know that because when I started the game up, I initially just turned right away from that placard and was walking around. I was like, this is a very cool setup. Is this like, what is this glass about? Maybe it's just a cool texture thing. Maybe they're going for an art style. But no, you can drown. And when you're under the water, you got a very cool sense of like God rays coming through the surface. We got fish flying everywhere. We've got some particle effects and a nice blurry quality to it, and we can actually jump when we're underwater, which is a little strange, but I have a feeling that's just more to do with the way that they had to program this in Unity. So if I hit left click again, we come back up to the surface. I guess there's like little planes that sort of prop you up little by little as you come back up, and you probably noticed while we were down, there's sort of a grouping of fish here in a strange pattern. Oh, of course I happen to fall just in the way that obscures what I'm actually trying to look at here. Make a little bit of a turn, and let me try again. Ah, there it is. That's what we were after. So there's crystals under the water, or gems, I guess you could say, as the placard described them. And if we hit E on them, they start to flicker like that, and that means we've triggered them, and something has changed. Now, there's a couple of them, and all of them have their own role to play in things. And they're actually, I mean, the whole setup of this game is a very minor puzzle. I'm not going to belabor the point for too long because it's not a very long-lived puzzle, but I do like the way that it's presented, and I was thinking if Voidscape 0 was, well, I was kind of hoping that Voidscape 0 was this area, and then when we finish this area, it would take you to Voidscape 1 or something like that, and we could just keep exploring these ruined environments and see what else we could see and discover. Anything going on down here? I see more fish. Are they leading somewhere? Are they coming from somewhere important? Also, some really great subtle sound effects. What is going on in the distance there? Is there something there? I don't know if you'll be able to tell from the very subtle contrast changes, but down at the bottom of the screen, it kind of looks like there's something hovering under the water, and it looks kind of massive and creepy. I'm not sure that I really have a phobia of, like, objects underwater, but this game makes me feel like I do for some reason. I got a little bit closer to see if that is indeed something there. You can get a bit of a glimpse of it. I think it might just be a submerged tower or something. And it's very also creepy how you just sort of hang at the same level in the ocean every time you come down. Yeah, there's totally objects suspended under there that are just too hazy to be able to make out. And I really do like that sense of tension and the fact that there's only some sound effects that happen when you're under there as well. Sort of like two dual parallel worlds happening at the same time. What's going on over here? I see more fish activity. What if I submerge right into this spiral of fish? Anything worth noticing? Oh my goodness, there's totally a whale down there. This is not Pokemon Snap, but it's certainly creepier. What on earth? Oh, so creepy. I don't know why. That's like not even a thing that should bother me, but something about the way this is set up. Anyway, I should probably figure out what that crystal did and see about maybe getting to our objective sometime soon. I know there's actually 2 crystals that I need to worry about, and I believe the other one might be down here. I should say also, if you're worried about me spoiling this game, you should probably turn this off and go boot it up yourself. You can play it right in the browser, and it's real short. It's probably like 5 minutes long unless you get lost, which you probably won't, because it's not all that sprawling anyway. But yeah, anyway, we've gotten into the gate, and there is a whole weird ramshackle grouping of wooden platforms and things. And it's actually really neat the way that the light plays off of that. All varying shades at varying distances and things. And I think this is maybe also partially where I got some of my Dark Souls / Demon Souls reference from, because this totally feels like a few areas, actually, that are in both of those titles. So now that I'm in here, what can I do? Well, let's try going up the steps. And you get stuck on things occasionally, like the geometry here maybe intercedes a little bit more than I'd like into the path of the player, but what can you do? Anyway, so let's see if we can get up here. This is a little bit too tall for me, so I think we're going to have to do a little bit more exploring and see if we can discover another thing. Perhaps if we could reset the crystal that was downstairs over here, and there's actually a sparkle to guide us. Well, I say a sparkle, but it's actually just some fish that happen to give sort of a glint appearance as the light refracts off of them. That's so pretty, actually. I really like the look of this. Alright, let's go back up. And you can totally see the structure obscuring the light up above the water, too. It's actually surprisingly a complex bunch of graphical filters, or at least it looks that way to someone who hasn't dealt with Unity personally in any sort of programming capacity or scripting capacity. So let's see if we can now go up higher. Whatever we changed has resulted in a situation where I can actually jump down onto these boards, and if I'm not terrible, I should... Oh, well, I am terrible, so let's try that again. Let's get back up on top, and this will be, I think, the end of our need to dive beneath the waves for the moment. So we'll jump up here, and then we'll just kind of hop down onto the wood. You gotta be a little bit careful here. I really like the solid contrast that happens, too, with this. How it's just kind of highlighting the edges and not the tops of or some sides of things. Makes things much more visually striking. You can get a real good sense of the outlines of objects because of that. And I'm not really sure what they did with this lighting system, but it just looks really nice. It really does complement the style very well and sets a good tone. Alright, so we've gotten up to the top of this tower, or at least near the top of the tower, and it looks like perhaps a dead end here. Is there... Oh, we can see into here, and there's sort of a white light happening down at the bottom. Now, I am being a bit coy. I have actually finished this, so I know what to do, but I just wanted to take a bit of a look outside before we proceed forward. What's going on with that green block hanging in the air? Must just be a part of the geometry that's closer, so it's just lighting up more than I'd like. And then off in the distance, I think that's where you could see the starting point there. So let's look around, and it looks like there might be a few steps here. So we'll make our way slowly up and ascend even higher. That looks like a jump that's not possible, but with run, we can actually pull that off just barely. A little worried if I fall in there, I might not be able to come back out of it, but we'll just be strong and tough and jump high and all of that good stuff, and it looks like we've made our way up. Is there any other cool picturesque things to see from up here? It looks like most of the draw distance is not going to be our friend. Well, you can barely see the water beneath, but it's mostly gone into the fog of war. That's not what that is. And yeah, so we're ready to fall in and see what happens. There's nothing really above us either. I'm not really sure why this is just this flat beige, but anyway, in we go. Whee! And we fall beneath the waves, and we're surrounded by what appears to be a hybrid of crystals and whales, and they will circle us infinitely in Voidscape 0. So that's actually where the game wraps up. I just waited on this screen for a very long time just in case this did anything differently, but this does seem to be the end of the experience. I would absolutely love to see more from this developer. I really like the atmosphere to this and the art style, like I said about 20 times, and if there was just a series of like 20 of these worlds all strung together via the same theme, I would be so enthralled to just see more. I'm not sure how long a project like this took to make, but now that maybe there's some groundwork in place, this could be something that could really be a good jumping off point for future designing work. Anyway, that's going to do it for another day's episode. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. It was definitely cool, and if you want to try it yourself, feel free. The link's going to be right in the description of the video. Like I said already, it's a browser game, so you don't have to download anything. It's just going to open right up for you, provided you have a proper browser, and all of the source attributions actually are right on that as well. So if you're curious about that, you can find it below the game window. And if you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like, because it does help me spread the word about new artistic, original, and just generally strange and surreal indie games. That's kind of my forte for this channel, and I upload new indie impressions videos every single day, have been for nearly 900 days straight. We're going for the 1,000 video streak, still uninterrupted in all this time, and with your support we can continue growing. It's been very, very slow lately, so hopefully it's just because people are getting back to school and getting back to their general routines and stuff, so hopefully people are still interested in the series. But it definitely does feel a little disheartening sometimes when it seems like not a lot of people are watching or interacting. So I do appreciate all the comments, and I do read them all, so if you did make it this far, just consider saying hi, or, you know, letting me know about what you think on this video, because it does mean a lot. So anyway, I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you again so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a fantastic night. Talk to you all later.